Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us here on another episode of Talon Talk here on the Red Hawk Sports Network. I'm Jess Lipson, and joined with me today is assistant coach for the women's lacrosse team, Sarah Burkarth. Coach, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
This is actually our first time meeting, so it's a pleasure meeting you as well.
Nice to meet you.
You're our first assistant coach we've had on, so this gives a chance for the Red Hawk faithful to get a chance to know you, and especially a newer coach that we have here. So thank you so much for joining me, and let's get right into it and get to know you a little bit more. And your love for sports. Let's talk about that. You were a three-sport athlete in high school. So where did you get that passion for sports?
Yeah. So I grew up in a sports family. I mean, I've been playing sports since I was in kindergarten. I started out swimming. That was the first thing I did. And then I picked up softball and soccer. And then once I hit middle school, I started transitioning more to the field hockey lacrosse aspect of it. So then once I was in high school, I was fully committed field hockey, swimming, and lacrosse. Then my junior year of high school is when I started to really dial in and say, okay, lacrosse is my sport.
Yeah, so you went on to play lacrosse at Shippensburg, where you were a standout there, and then you were also the captain. Mm-hmm. So what kind of lessons did you learn as being the captain for that team?
I would say something I learned is it's not just on-field things. You're a captain off the field, you're a leader off the field. So you're setting examples for people, not just at practice, it's all around every day, how you act, how people around you perceive you. It's so much more than just how you play.
Mm-hmm. As a captain, you're a leader on that team. So is that kind of what made you want to be a coach inevitably after college?
It is. So at SHIP, we would have clinics, youth clinics, and I kind of just naturally would take charge of those. So it's not that I thought I could see myself being a coach someday. It's just something that I fell into naturally and kind of had a knack for. So post-college, I always thought, hey, maybe I can coach in high school division someday. But it wasn't until 2017 that I got into collegiate coaching.
Yeah, and you started at Wilkes as the assistant coach. You ended up becoming a head coach. What were some struggles maybe being a coach right out of the gates, and what were some positives as well?
So I went to Wilkes University in 2017 as a graduate assistant coach. So I was there getting my master's degree. I got my master's in education. So I was doing that for a year and a half, and then our head coach ended up leaving, and I took her role. So for the last 6 months of my graduate education, I was actually the head coach while finishing my degree. So I kind of had a lot on my plate there, transitioning into the role of head coach and still being a full-time student. But I mean, I handled it well, I think, and we ended up having a great season, and it kind of just, I don't know how to describe it, but I didn't see myself being a full-time collegiate coach. In my mind, I was at Wilkes to get my degree in education, become a teacher, that's what I was there for, and then I was going to coach high school level. But once I took that head role, I was like, wow, I love this. This is such a good fit. And I just had to stick with it. There's no way that I could give it up at that point.
So now you're here at Montclair State. How did that transition go from another college to now here? And why did you choose Montclair specifically?
So I lived in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania for the past 4 years at Wilkes. And my husband is actually from the area. He's from Caldwell, and he got his master's degree here at Montclair. And I actually knew someone that played for the women's lacrosse team when I was in college, Tierney Conlin, and she ended up being the best player to ever come through the program. They actually retired her uniform here. So I always knew of Montclair, and I always thought hey, it would be awesome to coach there someday. And then when we decided to move here over the summer, ironically, the position opened up. I saw the assistant position online, and I immediately emailed Nicole, the head coach, my information, and I brought up Tierney. I brought up that my husband had gone to graduate school here, and it kind of just fell into place.
That's awesome. So was that your first time really meeting Coach Partzlucci?
It was, yeah. That was the very first time.
Now you clearly weren't here last year, but you've probably heard and maybe you've seen some of the success that they had last season. They beat TC&J. They made it to the NJAC championship. So what are you kind of getting as you come into the season? Are you kind of getting that we're in a great spot and we have a lot to build on? Where are you guys at right now?
So we have a lot of returners. Basically, our entire starting lineup is returners, but we do have a lot of freshmen as well. So it's this interesting dynamic where all of the returners have in the back of their mind how well they did last season, and they want to reproduce that. So it is their goal every day when they come into practice, hey, we have big shoes to fill. They know how well we did last season, and they want to do that again. So then that trickle-down effect is now coming onto the freshmen, and they're like, okay, so this is what we have to work towards. So it's going really well so far.
Yeah, you mentioned the fifth-year athletes, and you unfortunately were coaching, majority of your head coaching time was during COVID, but I think one of the positives that did come out of it is that athletes have this fifth year of eligibility and have that extra year to play the sport that they like. And you kind of mentioned that you're bringing a ton of athletes back, so how have you seen that work out? Is it something that you kind of are going to use strategically, recruiting-wise, or anything like that?
We're very fortunate to have some amazing fifth-year players back. Talon, our goalie, she's a national All-American. We are so lucky to have her for her fifth year. Morgan Cotton as well again. I mean, she's back. We're excited to have her. We're going to play her in the midfield, a little bit on attack. She's going to be kind of everywhere. But we are factoring that into recruiting because now we have those fifth years. We also have a large senior class. So we're going to be graduating possibly 11 people. So we're looking to bring in a large freshman class next fall.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you don't necessarily only have to go after like freshmen because we had a women's soccer player here, Zoe Steck, came from UConn. She graduated there, so kind of you're not just going after freshmen, which is an interesting dynamic. Now you've had a couple scrimmages so far. You've had a couple. Of course, you've had the majority of your preseason. So where are you guys looking at right now? What's some of your strengths or weaknesses of the team so far?
So our first scrimmage, it was a play day. We actually ended up playing 3 different teams, and 2 of those teams were nationally ranked within the top 25, and we produced extremely well against them. We played Catholic, who I believe is ranked 19th possibly, and we only lost by 2 points, and the other team we played is ranked 24th, and we ended up beating them. So we know that we are able to compete with the top 25 teams. So this preseason has been going really well for us, and it's just proving our skill and making us even more excited for season.
Yeah, you guys got the news that you were ranked in the top 25 at 19th. So what was that kind of like hearing that?
It was great news, but it wasn't a shock. Not to sound overconfident, because that can never be good. I mean, you always want to stay humble, but the way this team produced last season, they beat TCNJ in the regular season, and TCNJ is always in the top teams. So we proved that last season. Like I said, we have big shoes to fill. There's a lot to prove, but we know we're capable of it.
So where are the expectations? What are some goals that you guys have and that you guys are talking about?
We try not to put too much pressure on ourselves in the game-by-game aspect of saying, in this specific game, we need to hit this many goals or hit these certain amount of stats. It's more so going into it with just, we're going to have full intensity. We're going to play as hard as we can for 60 minutes, and that's kind of how we're going to look at the entire season. Take it game by game, having as much fun as we can, but producing as much as we can and just playing as hard as possible for 60 minutes.
Taking it maybe a little, you do a lot more than just are the assistant coach here at Montclair State for the women's lacrosse team. You're also the director for Evolution Lacrosse. So can you tell me a little bit about what that is and what your role there is?
Yeah, so Evolution Lacrosse is a youth program. It's based in Montclair, but we have kids from probably 10 different towns. And as of right now, our age group spans from 4th grade to 9th grade. So I'm working with those girls right now just once a week. And then summer is our busy season. So we practice from May to July, and it's a youth club travel program. So we have 4 different teams right now, kind of just divided by graduation year. And my role as director is not so much working one-on-one with the kids, it's kind of managing the coaches.
I saw a post where you talked about how you were growing a team and how it was in an area that not necessarily like had women's lacrosse yet. And it kind of seems like you just immerse yourself into this sport and you kind of also are giving back, helping grow the sport. So what does lacrosse just mean to you and like kind of why do you do all this?
So when I was living in Pennsylvania, that area absolutely had nothing in terms of youth lacrosse for girls. I have a passion for bringing lacrosse to areas that don't necessarily have it yet. Now that's not the case where we are right here in Montclair because there's so much good lacrosse here. it's interesting for recruiting too, because we really don't have to look far for good recruits. We're bringing in next fall a ton of recruits locally within a 30-mile radius. So my club role right now is not so much teaching the game, but just developing it.
It's funny that you mentioned how like popular it is here because I remember last season there was a team maybe from Tennessee or something that came to play us, and we asked like, why are you traveling all the way? And they were like, there's no lacrosse really like where they were, so they always come up to the Northeast and whatnot. So kind of got to know you a little bit more. So let's get into the fun part of this. We always kind of do like a little game at the end of our Talon Talks. So the game today is called This or That, where you kind of choose this or that. When you were a player, what was your favorite setting to play in? It's a packed stands, a day game or a night game?
Night game.
Every time?
I've always hated 4 p.m. games. I don't know why. I just prefer to play at night with the stadium lights on. I love that atmosphere.
You were a 3-sport athlete in high school. You did swimming, field hockey, and lacrosse. I assume lacrosse was your favorite out of those.
Yes.
So out of the other two, which one did you choose?
Field hockey, because I was burnt out from swimming. I started swimming when I was 6 years old. I swam in the summer, the fall, and I ended up quitting when I was 15 because I was like, I can't take this anymore. It's too much. So when I talk to like club parents in my youth program, I say, it's great that you're doing all this extra work, but be careful because you don't want to go overboard. You will burn your kids out. You have to keep the love of the game in it.
I feel like that's like kind of a huge way where you can relate to those youth
Yes.
athletes. Do you kind of use that as
I do.
For
That's one of the main aspects of my coaching philosophies and style is I coach by experiences that I've personally been through, because I've seen a lot, I've been through a lot. So when I coach and when I teach, I like to bring in those experiences.
So now do you like coaching or playing more?
Very different things, but I would say coaching. I would say I like being a coach more because as a player, you can be a leader and a captain, but you never really have like 28 people with their undivided attention on you, listening to you. And as a coach, you really can just help guide them and develop them as players, but also as people. So I feel like I'm making a huge impact on these people's lives.
Yeah, you just gave a really serious answer, and I'm about to not follow that up with a serious response. What is your favorite social media? TikToks, Snapchat, or Instagram?
Not Snapchat. I'm over it.
Yeah.
I love Instagram. I'm on it too much. I have 4 accounts, like as far as my personal, I have a fitness page, I have Montclair page, I have my club evolution page. So that's more of a job for me, whereas TikTok is fun.
Yeah.
So I would say TikTok.
You're not trying to go viral on TikTok? You don't?
I have once, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of my weightlifting videos went viral.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I also didn't mention Twitter. Do you like Twitter?
Over it.
Okay.
It's in the past.
Okay, Twitter's my favorite. So, what is your favorite breakfast? Pancakes, waffles, or French toast?
Pancakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last one, do you prefer movies or TV?
TV, but series that I can just binge.
Are you watching anything?
Euphoria currently.
Okay, I need to get into that, but I don't have HBO Max, so. All right, well, thank you so much for taking your time to talk with me. It was great getting to know you, and good luck this season.
Likewise, thank you for having me.
All right, so that does it with this episode of Talon Talk. Tune in next week for another episode on the Red Hawk Sports Network. Have a great day.